One of the most important historical markers of the 20th century is the assassination of John F. Kennedy on Friday, November 22nd, 1963, in Dealey Plaza in Dallas, Texas. Just about everyone alive back then was able to say where they were when they first heard of JFK's death on that day. Perhaps the only comparable moments in American history over the past 100 years are the bombing of Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941, which resulted in the entry of the United States into World War II, and the terrorist attacks of September 11, 2001, the so-called 9/11 events that brought down the World Trade Center buildings in New York City and the destruction of a substantial part of the Pentagon. JFK's assassination was one of those moments that no one easily forgets, and it remains a significant marker in any book of U.S. or even world history. The assassination of John F. Kennedy is also one of the most argued over events in recent history as well. There have been well over 1,000 books, movies, and documentaries detailing the controversies involved in the event, controversies that just never seem to go away. According to the official story of the event, John F. Kennedy was killed by a lone assassin, a gunman named Lee Harvey Oswald, who fired between 2 to 4 shots from a bolt-action rifle from a significant distance, killing Kennedy and wounding the then Texas Governor John Connally. Arguments about the case include whether a single bullet could have hit both Kennedy and Connally, how many bullets were fired, whether the shots came from one or more directions, the lack of a forensic autopsy performed by qualified forensic specialists who might have determined the directions of the shots, the very poor condition of the rifle that was claimed to have been used to kill Kennedy, essentially making it impossible to aim accurately, and why one person who might have been able to supply at least some of the answers to those questions, Lee Harvey Oswald, was himself shot under highly suspicious circumstances by Jack Ruby, a Dallas resident who operated a number of nightclubs and strip joints, and a person who some say had connections to organized crime. Just about everything that could have gone wrong with the investigation of the Kennedy assassination did go wrong. And to this day, a great many people appear to disbelieve the official story for the event. Add to this the very late public release of a 8mm film of the assassination that was shot by Abraham Zapruder that seemed to suggest that Kennedy might have been shot from 2 different directions, which, if true, would mean that there were 2 different shooters. The list of controversial elements to the assassination goes on and on quite a bit longer, and I have no intention of arguing over the body of physical evidence, however conflicting and confusing it may be. Others have already done that countless times, and we are no closer to a resolution of the matter of who shot JFK as a result of those debates. Instead, I want to show you newly collected data, remote viewing data, collected by 2 of the most respected and experienced remote viewers on the planet. This new body of data constitutes new eyewitness accounts using methodologies that were derived from those used by the U.S. military and used for espionage purposes for a great many years. I am Courtney Brown, director of the Farsight Institute, the largest and most respected civilian venue for full public projects using remote viewing as it is done, using military or military-derived methodologies. The remote viewers who worked on this project are Daz Smith and Dick Allgire, and they both have long public track records using remote viewing, and their work has been published in a variety of scientific venues. I have a lot to show you today in this documentary, so I will not go into much background regarding the remote viewing phenomenon itself or the past work of the remote viewers involved in this project, but if you want more of that, I encourage you to go to the website for the Farsight Institute, where you will find a huge quantity of material, including free instructional lessons, printable texts, and a great many projects conducted at the Institute covering a wide range of topics. To briefly summarize a basic description of remote viewing, I can say that it is a mental process that allows highly trained individuals to accurately perceive what is called targets, which are places, events, and people across time and space. People who use these procedures are called remote viewers, and when they are really good, they can describe such things in great detail without being told anything in advance about what they are assigned to perceive, a condition known as working blind. There are only a few highly trained remote viewers in the world today, and they are capable of supplying perceptual data that are what some call scary good. Well, in early 2015, I enlisted the help of two gifted remote viewers who are among the best on the planet, Allgire and Daz Smith, to work on this new project. All remote viewing is done totally blind at the Farsight Institute. The remote viewers for this project were only told that there is a target and that they should remote view it, nothing else. Now, as with all of our recent projects done at the Farsight Institute, this project is essentially a video remote viewing project. That is, the core data for this project were recorded using video, not paper and pen. Also, remote viewing sessions for this project were also conducted solo. There were no camera people, remote viewing monitors, or anyone else present while the sessions were being done who could have influenced the viewers when they were doing their work. Everything you are about to see was obtained solely by the remote viewers themselves, working all alone while they were completely blind to the target. Now, remote viewing perceptions are essentially eyewitness reports. The better the eyewitness, the more likely that the eyewitness reports will turn out to be accurate. Remote viewing data, when done well, really can be very persuasive, especially since the data can be independently corroborated across multiple remote viewers, and much of the data can be compared with aspects of the known physical data. Now, the viewers can also dive deeply into the events in a manner that would not be possible for physical eyewitnesses. It is also useful to mention that neither Daz nor Dick communicated in any way at all during the remote viewing phase of this project, and they lived on opposite sides of the planet. Daz Smith in the UK and Dick Allgire in Hawaii. They also did not communicate about the project in any way during the remote viewing phase of the project. Before we dive into the results, let's review the actual target, which is, of course, the assassination of John F. Kennedy. It took place in Dealey Plaza in Dallas, Texas, in broad daylight, while Kennedy was riding in an open car with his wife, Jacqueline Kennedy. Dealey Plaza is a grassy area, with some parts level and some parts slightly elevated. The so-called grassy knoll is one of those elevated areas. Perhaps the most famous observer of this assassination is Abraham Zapruder, who recorded the event on film. Understanding what is seen in his film is one of the primary motivations behind this project. The Zapruder film is copyrighted and not in the public domain, so we do not show it here, but there are many versions of the film that are available on YouTube, which you may want to see if you have not already done so. In this film, it is clear that Kennedy was hit twice, once in the neck and once in the head. The bullet that hit him in the head resulted in his head essentially exploding while it is thrown backward. The backward movement of the head is seen as evidence that at least one shot was fired from the front of the vehicle, although arguments that the backward movement of the head was a result of muscle activity on his back has also been made. The physical evidence is simply confusing. And for every argument that supports one interpretation, there is a counter-argument supporting a different interpretation. Simply examining the physical evidence will not resolve this mystery. Nonetheless, we go into the study asking if the two shots that hit Kennedy came from two different directions or just from one direction. If they came from two different directions, then there was more than a lone gunman who killed Kennedy. There was a conspiracy, and the only question that remains is how far that conspiracy extends. Remember that remote viewing data by themselves cannot prove that something did or did not occur. But given how accurately these two remote viewers describe the known physical elements of the event, many may find these data to be highly persuasive. Okay, here we go. I advise you to hold on to your seats and be patient as our remote viewers describe in seemingly incredible detail what actually happened on that fateful day of November in 1963. And let me warn you in advance that the official governmental story of what took place during the assassination is not supported by these data. Try to keep an open mind as you watch these results with your own eyes. Let's begin with a session from Daz Smith. Daz begins with an initial description of the basic target elements, and then he gets more specific as he continues to work this target. You will eventually see that he locates and describes the shooters in exceptional detail. You will also notice that Daz focuses considerable attention on an observer at the target site. It seems clear to me that he is perceiving Abraham Zapruder, the man who took the famous Zapruder film of the assassination. That film was key to the construction of the targets for this project. It is the best photographic record of what actually happened on that infamous day in November of 1963. It is best if Daz tells you the story himself.
Hi everyone, my name is Daz Smith and I'm just about to do target 14A for the Farsight Institute. Just want to let everyone know that I'm doing this target blind and I'm also doing it solo, which means that no one in the vicinity knows the target, and I'm clearly alone in this room here, which is my living room. Okay, so let's get right to it. So, target 14A. Okay, like I say, so A, there's life at the target. This is male, over 30, busy, agitated. More than one life. There's two of them, two males, separated. Just trying to think here. One feels more involved. The other feels more like he's an observer, watching. He's slightly distant. There also feels like there is a female component. So there's more than two life at the target, and I feel that there are also some female elements at the target as well, but these feel a bit more removed. I'm not sure. They don't feel like they're the focus of what I'm meant to be looking at, but they are there as well. In emotion as well, huge amounts of emotion at this target. And that's all this here. It's like enveloping. Huge cloud of emotion, energy. I want to start very emotional, very impacting. Lots of different emotional energies involved here. Yeah, very life-driven this target. It feels very complex as well. I just might feel the complexity of it starting to form. So let me see if I can get a bit more on this for you. Okay, so let's try to get back a bit more into this because it's very complex. I can feel there's lots happening here. So, target 14A, there's life, more than one. There's a structure, man-made, solid, moving. AOL here, a vehicle. There's land. And the land is in two parts. There's a linear component. This feels lower. And then there's curves. There's curves like this. I can see curves, and the linear component seems to be through the curves, lower than the curves, and recessed. I can't spell today. Recessed into the land. And there's lots of motion as well. There's energy and motion. So there's energy, and this feels emotional. That's the largest part. But there's also another energy, and this is motion based. And this feels conflicting. Conflicting is a good word. Okay, I'm running out of space, so let's move on to, let me try to expand this onto another scene here for you. So 14A. Okay, so it's life. And it feels like he's inside. And it feels like he's a passenger. And I got this linear, it feels linear kind of structure with a life inside it. And it feels like it's moving. So we have a linear dark, almost black, moving, man-made structure. Because he feels like a vehicle, because he feels like a passenger, and because this feels like a moving man-made structure, I'd have to say this is a vehicle. I have to say there's a life inside the vehicle, and he feels like a passenger. But passenger seems to have more meaning in this sense on this target. Bear with me a second. Okay. It's a two-part thing for the passenger. He's a passenger inside a moving man-made. But he's also a passenger to the situation. This feels like an event, a past event. And it feels like he's a passenger to a situation, in the fact that a situation seems to be unfolding around him that, because he's a passenger and not a driver, he's not in control of the situation. Yeah, so it's an unfolding event around a central male life in a man-made structure which is moving, which feels like a vehicle. It feels like it's outside in an area which seems to have quite a lot of natural elements, undulating land. I can see some curves to the land, but there's also I would say a linear structure which is darker, flatter and lower. So that feels like a road. So it feels like a vehicle moving along a road in an area that has undulating green naturalness to it. It feels like it's quite spacious around, and it looks a bit like this. If I got room here to draw it, so I feel that the road type structure kind of comes along like that, and maybe even goes down like that in the end. Now this feels like it's lower than, got some curved land around it, and there is at least a person here, a male of significance. So this is like the man-made structure that's like moving along. I'm not drawing it very well, but it has got the land has topography which varies, which is yeah, it has these hill-like undulating parts to it with the road structure down lower. Okay, let's just see what else we get here. This definitely feels like an event, and it feels surprised as well. It feels like a surprise event for life. So bear with me a sec while I get some ink running here. So let's look at the primary life. So he's male. He's over 30. He's confident. He's happy. He seems to be ambling along. Happy. Arms are moving. Cheerful. Content. And then something happens. And I feel surprised. I can feel an adrenaline rush. Increased heart rate. And momentary concern, but this is hard to explain. This now starts to feel like time is slowing down a little bit here. Time seems to be different. Feels like I'm seeing this very, very slowly, almost frame by frame. This area of time here is very small. It doesn't last long. So he goes from being very happy, enjoying himself, to being very surprised, lots happening, very confused. This is a new situation to him that's just unfolded, it's surprise. And then it changes again. It moves from this surprised feeling to one of calmness. Yes, that's the right word. Elation, happiness again. Happiness isn't the right word. It's like a mixture of happy and calm. Spiritual. Okay. I want to say awakening, because it feels like a process of a person opening their eyes, becoming awake, becoming aware. But there's a calmness. There's a feeling of not caring. Isn't that the right word? Not caring about what's just happened. See, the life is happy, surprised, freaked out, increased heart rate for a second here, shocked, very emotional. I can feel lots of emotion. The whole thing's very emotional. I can't get across the amount of emotion that's at this target. And it's not just from this life, it seems more that bigger than that, like it's watched by people, other people that are just as emotional. Everyone's shocked by this. So a surprise event happens to the male life, and then almost instantaneously he changes again. He transforms, he's calm, he's elated, there's a happy calmness, a spiritual kind of almost like an eye-opening awakening. And this does feel like a death event. So at this stage it feels like the main primary life at this target is a male over 30s in a car or a vehicle, not car, that's just being AOL. He feels like he's in a moving man-made structure which feels like a vehicle because it feels like it's going along some kind of purposely built surface. He's happy at the time. I can see his hands moving. He doesn't seem concerned. He's emotional. Emotions are high all around. Everyone's happy. And something happens, and this feels motion-based. Now it feels like, as I said, he feels like he's in some kind of boxy, linear, dark, man-made, slick, I'd say metallic type structure that's moving. So he's moving along like this. And then, but there feels like it, I don't know if he's moving in a different direction, but there's an intersection of energy, motion, and it feels like it's from two different places here. So maybe free with his forward motion as well, I don't know. And it feels explosive here. So we have this man in a vehicle moving along, happy, intersects with what feels like explosive energy motion from two opposite directions probably, in an event which causes him to, looks like he loses life, or go for a transformation that feels like it's like he's losing life. It feels similar to other things like this I've picked up in other targets. It feels like a death situation. I've experienced this before. But there's lots of motion, and there's this linear surface here, but it does turn. It turns in a couple places. So we have this linear surface that this thing's going across, but there are these undulating areas around it, and on one of these is another life. Now this other life is male. Again, he's over 30. Now it's a very similar situation because he starts off happy, calm. I'm just trying. Let me bear with me a minute. I'm just trying to run through the time of this. Yeah, he's watching. He's observing, and that seems key to him. Looking, observing, watching. And then he goes through the same process. I mean, he's emotional anyway, all the way through this. Pride, proud. But then he observes witnesses, and I guess is involved in seeing this event, and his emotions just like skyrocket as well. He can very emotional, confused, agitated, raised heart rate. And he's worried, has thoughts about his family. Yeah, but he feels like an outside observer. And I'm not sure if he's alone, but he seems important. So we have a primary male and we have a secondary male. But as I said, I do feel that there's a female presence here at the target as well. But it's not something, it feels like it's not something that I'm meant to focus upon at this stage. Yeah. Okay, so let's try and move on a little bit. Okay. Takes a long time to get this off. That's better. Okay, bear with me while I have a drink of water here. Lots of talking. Okay, so I want to get a feel about the emotions at the start, because it seems to be very emotional, very high stress and emotions. So powerful, human emotions, and they're everywhere. And this is a past event. This is a past event that's very impacting. People were very emotional about it. And it upset them. Bear with me a second. I'll try something here. Okay, time. Time seems to slow down. Use a different cutter here, it's not working very well. There seems to be a displacement of time across time. This seems to be like a... It feels like... from start to now, and this feels like a past, the past event, and it feels like the emotions transcend time. It feels like the event transcends time. Timeless. Even to now. People are still emotional about it now. But it seems slow as well. Yeah. At the key point of the event, It feels like time displaces, time slows down, yeah. So this feels like a very powerful human response event. Humans got very emotional about this and still do. Yeah, still do, I would say. So it's an event in the past, very emotional, impacts humans greatly. We get very emotional about it and still do. And because of this and the way it affects us, it feels like it's a target that almost, or not almost, but does transcend time itself. It feels like it crosses all barriers of time. But also feels like a key part of the target is time slowing down. I don't know what that means at this stage, but it feels like at the moment of, I want to say impact or crash. At the moment of impact crash, the event, time slows. It's almost like you can see time in slow motion there for a short period, only a few seconds, and that feels like an important component. Is that a mindset? Something in the minds of people? That's what I'm going to put, because it came through. Yeah, so there's this slowness of time at the event, transcends time, but a very emotional target here. I can feel clouds of emotion everywhere. So if I'm at the target now, I'm standing in the target, I can feel it. I mean, the emotion starts before what I class, shouldn't call it the main event, but before the event thing that causes the problems. There's emotion there anyway, but all around, as I move slowly through the target to the time of something happening to this central life, emotions change there. There's loads of surprise, loads of shock. I can almost see the shocked faces. Energy levels instantly peak, and then they rise. Shock, horror, yeah. It's like people are observing in real time something happening, an event. Something that shocks them to their core. And that reverberates through time, and it still shocks them to this day. They're still shocked. So we have a lot, and the Maui structure feels boxy. It feels angular. Dark and angular. I can see the angles on it. It feels kind of like boxy and large. And here's our life. It's moving along. It feels like it's moving. It feels like it's moving along. Not. It doesn't feel super fast. It's just moving along. And then all of a sudden, I feel this motion energy, and it kind of comes out of nowhere. It's kind of like surprise. And this is explosive here. I want to say explosive motion energy. It comes from two different places. I'm sure it comes from two different places. It comes from one here and one here. And this one feels linear, low, boxy, and it feels like there's a whoosh. This one feels higher, raised, forward. Something curved maybe. And this happens fast. This is like seconds to milliseconds. And it feels like there's an impact, because it feels like the motion stops there. There's a stop here. There's an abrupt stop. There's an abrupt stop. And there may be life involved. There may be other life involved. Could this been planned? Executed? Arranged? Event? Okay, so it feels like there are probably life involved in this. But then, no. See, this leads me to another AOL of JFK assassination. It does feel like other life are involved. I'm finding it hard to pick up on them though. It almost feels like it's not time for me to look at them. They're not the main focus of 14A. Let me try to focus on. Let me try to focus on them. Come on, 14A. Others. Angry. Males. Organized. Rushing. Moving. Adept. I haven't used that word before in RV, so that's interesting. They cause the situation. This is exactly as it came in. They cause situation, then run away. Ghosts. So target 14A. Okay, we have life. We have structure. We have energy. We have motion. We have something else here. Emotion. Yeah, emotion. Okay, what we need to do is we need to look at the life at this target, because that's what we've been retasked. So I'm going to now go into, and now I've kind of set the scene. I'm going to look at the areas that I've been retasked on. Okay. Here we go again, 14A. Okay, so there's life. They're male, they're busy, occupied, they're arranged, they're structured, and working to a plan. It feels devious. There's an element of, I can't quite put my finger on it, there's an element of hidden, secret. Organized. Pre-planned. Okay, so this is life in a pre-planned event. Definitely planned, definitely male. All over 30. Male. White. Well dressed. And they focused. It's like they're deep in thought or concentration. Concentration's the word. They're very focused. They got oh, that's a word I haven't used before. They have a directive. Okay, that's interesting. All right, let me try to break this down a bit more. What I remember about the target itself is that it had several areas of life. Okay, so we have the central life. So it feels like we have a linear surface with this angular, dark, boxy type structure, which is moving in this direction. And within this structure we have at least one target focus of a life form, which is male. I'm going to call this the primary. This life feels male. I do feel that within this area here there's at least one, possibly more, female, I want to say, influence. But I don't think they're the focus of the target as much in this case. We also have an observer, and this area is undulating. It feels undulating all here. It seems to dogleg this surface, so it comes down here and it doglegs that way a little bit as well. So this is undulating. On the undulating area we have at least one male life form, and I feel this person is known as an observer in this target. And then intersecting the main life we have two forward motions packed full of motion, energy, thrust. And this feels explosive. It feels at the points where the primary life in the structure and these forward thrusting motions meet. It feels like there's an explosive situation here. Which causes the structure, and I have to say at this point, it feels like a vehicle. It causes the vehicle to stop abruptly. And it feels like the primary life goes through some kind of transition or transformation, which feels like it's transformation from one state to another, possibly a death event. But anyway, the focus is what's behind these two thrust energies, and these thrust energies feel like it comes from life, and I feel like, let's go for this one first. They feel like they're males. Feels like there's two of them at least. No. Hang on. There's two together, and then there's another separate. So there's two here. They're male, over 30. They work together, work as a team. They feel silent or quiet. Focused. And they direct an object with energy and motion purposely towards the target. So this is a purposeful event by two males, and these feel low. Are they lying? I feel like they're lying down, or they're flat, or they're low. They're low. I mean, well, the topography of this is that the road area surface here is low anyway, with the undulating parts in between it, but they feel low as well. Now behind them, not a huge distance away, but a distance away, there feels to be a third life. And he feels like he's standing, watching. See, I'm getting some words here that make me want to AOL. He's like he's doing what we call Overwatch, and this, you know, I'd have to AOL a sniper situation here. Because it also feels like one of these is an observer watcher, and one of them has, oh, let's see, I've subconsciously done it there, has a gun or something. Does this feel like it's definitely an aimed, thrusted, purposely aimed, thrusted motion to intersect over here. I'm trying to say this without naming the target, which is how we do it within CRV. Yeah, so I would say essentially a three-man team, but one of them detached, standing. Oh, and he might be standing in much traffic. There are two other males. These feel to be lower, lying down. One of them's holding something, one of them's watching or spotting it. So it feels like a sniper team with some kind of handler behind doing, I don't know, rear security or something. They're there on a mission. This is pre-planned. It's practiced. The positions were scouted beforehand. Covert. And I have a feeling that disappear. They're just gonna blend away. Blend away, is that a word? Melt away. They're gonna go after they've done what they're gonna do. And this feels like a purposeful intent here. This feels like a purposeful intent of damage towards this area here. But I don't feel anything, it's strange, I don't feel anything overtly aggressive from the two males. It's, you know, it's all very, it feels very professional. It's very run of the mill, they've done it before. They're practiced. This isn't their first time at this. And I got an AOL here of CIA, because they feel like, this feels like an assassination or an attempted assassination. It feels like there are people covertly working to hinder, stop and damage this central primary life form. As I said, working in a two-man team with a one-man backup, so essentially a three-man team, dang low. And we have this secondary area here. Again, it feels like a forward thrusting directed motion. Now this feels like another two-man team. So two males, and they're up high, or higher, not high. It's key there, raised. And they're doing the same thing. They're very similar to the guys out there. They have this very similar focus. They also feel like they're from a different part. They're different in some way, a subtle way. Maybe from where they came. It feels like where they came from, maybe different. They're both over 30, they're practiced, they scouted as well, they know the area, they know what they're doing, they're calm, they're just waiting, it's planned, it's pre-planned, they were given orders. It's all quite secretive. And they have a backup person as well. They have a backup person way over here. And this area feels spacious behind. And the backup person just feels like he's in this one. He's not as busy as the other one. That one seems to be busy in amongst noise and traffic. This one doesn't. This one's precautionary. It's just a precaution. Yeah. And these two, they're sat. No, not sat. They were sat. Sat and standing, waiting. They were waiting for a while. They're waiting for a position. Let me try and rub this out and get a bit more detail here. I'll try to start with the two up high, because that's where we ended. And see if I can pick into them a little bit more. Get a bit more data on what they're trying to do there. So we have two lives. And they have another one over here, a bit behind them. They're up, raised, they're standing. As the time happens, bear with me a second. They're waiting, patient. That's all patient. Smoking. One of them smokes. At least one of them smokes. There's smoke. They're not laughing. They're not talking. They're quiet. Focused. These are professionals. They don't seem nervous or scared. They're just focused. They have an aim, a directive. See, a directive again. It's not a word I use. Directive. Bear with me. Let's get a better pen here. Okay, ordered, planned, arranged, military, covert, operation, okay, directive. Okay, so the males up high, two of them, over 30s, very professional. They feel like if they're not military now, they've at least had military training. Again, this does feel like they're waiting in a trap, waiting for prey to come along, and then they act. And what I see with the act is I feel that there's a super fast forward thrusting motion of power, which ends up with an explosive event at the end. It feels like these two males, they cause this action to happen. They plan it. And then they move. They separate, in fact. One goes one way, one goes another. And I feel like the person in the back moves forward. So the person in the back moves forward, checks the situation, makes sure everything's clear, nothing's left behind. Nothing's left behind. No evidence. he's an Overwatch. So there's a third person, he's an Overwatch. So these two life here, males, they do what they're meant to do, which is this forward surprised. It's a surprise, it's like a trap. Thrusting motion. I can feel it hit forward. There's an explosive event, there's a stop here with a life. They then pretty much without words just finish what they're doing. I can see them moving their hands. Then one moves off in one direction. It feels like he has bags. The other moves off in another direction. And the person that's behind at the time, watching their backs, moves forward. Moves forward, checks the area, checks all that's clear. It feels like he mingles. And assesses. And this feels like he's looking to see if they were found out, watched or something. And after a time of this person doing this, mingling, checking the situation, moving off, he kind of moves off as well. And I feel like he moves off in this direction. It feels like he's moving up the road that the vehicle came down. So he just moves off. Now the question is, I guess, why? And it all comes down to this directive that it feels like they were directed to do this, ordered. Were they paid? I guess they are paid, they're professional. It feels more than that though. It's Saturday. A belief in what they're doing or something. As I said, the question is why? Why are they doing what they are ordered? It's their job. Planned. Arranged. Need to know. Plan again. Above their heads. Okay, so they just do. They just go. They just do what they're told to do. Whoa, hang on a sec. Okay, there are all these levels. And they're at the bottom. And they know that there's someone pulling strings here, ordering. But there are other people involved here. Managers, they're like area managers. So not one person. Oh, here's a word. Compartmentalized. Okay, so I don't think they know everything. Not one person knows everything. There seems to be levels to this, and each person has a job or a role, knows a certain amount, but not enough to know the whole picture. And they're just doing what they've been told to do. They're professionals, military trained. I'm not sure if they're in the military now. They don't feel military, but they feel military. They feel like military trained men on a mission. Because they've been told to. These are the two, and so these are the men on the raised area. Let's see if we can pick up something quick on the other guys. So we have the road type area here, surface. We have our observer. We have this area, and it feels. I draw this low and flat with intersecting parts. They feel like they're led down 2 Mels here, a third one over here. The third one over here seems to be in amongst. He actually seems fairly busy. Again, he's watching the rear, focused on the rear, to make sure no one comes up behind these guys. And these guys, they do the same thing. They have this strong, fast, thrusting directive motion which ends in an explosion or an explosive area and an abrupt stop. They disassemble. And they go off together, pretty much, in this area. But they're also joined by that guy. And they go off together. They don't split up, they go off together. It's like is it more important for him to watch the rear than this area here? Because this area is hidden. So after it happens, yeah, they just go off together. They go off together. Why are they doing this? Why are they doing this? Again, ordered a plan. It's arranged. Long-term goals. They're doing it because they've been told to do it, paid to do it. It's just it's just what they do. I can't really say any more than that because they don't really know. It's just like they've been told to do something, they've been given an order, so they're just following the orders and doing it. They don't have all the information. Let me just check the time here a second. So yeah, that's pretty much it, I'm afraid, on this. As a summary, we have two teams of Mels, both sets over 30. Each set has 2 men working together very closely, with a third person in something like a rear guard position, watching their backs. One location seems higher up, raised, one location seems lower down, and they seem to be at a point where a primary life is moving in this direction. Then there's a focused directive energy from that area and a focused directive energy from that area, so it feels like a conjunction, a crossroads. Yeah, so there's like 3 forceful pushes, one for one direction, one for a second, then another from a third direction, all conjunct on one area at one point. Two sets guys in sets of 3. There's a tiered structure of planning to this, so they don't all have the picture. The group from over here splits up, go in different directions. The third person behind checks the area first, make sure everything's clear, make sure nothing's left behind, covers them, then he moves off in a direction. The second team over there, they actually disperse together, all 3 of them together. I think the locations, it feels a bit more hidden. So there wasn't so much worry, it was just, yeah, the guy at the back was just there to make sure no one came up behind them. Why they did this? Because they were ordered. They had to. It feels like a past event. And for all intents and purposes, this feels like I'm actually remote viewing a covert, planned, long-term planned, compartmentalized assassination of someone. If it's not an assassination, it's an attempt to harm or stop someone in the past.
Now let us move on to the results of Dick Allgire. While both Daz Smith and Dick Allgire each add their own individual emphases to these results, you will see an enormous overlap in their findings. But there are also differences. Dick focuses more on the surrounding buildings, and some of his descriptions of the surrounding buildings are incredibly accurate. See especially his description of the old courthouse, which he describes as an old Gothic building. Eventually, he describes the shooters. Remember, what you are seeing is not staged or rehearsed. You are witnessing real remote viewing as it is done by the best remote viewers under the best of conditions. And again, hold on to your seats.
I did some work on this target, paper and pen, and then I went from there into a theta ERV style session. I did a technique at HRVG that we use called edging, where I block my optic nerve and rest my head in my hands and do a certain breathing exercise to bring my awareness down. And what happened to me, what is supposed to happen is, I blacked out. And as I blacked out, my awareness came to on the target. So it's a little disconcerting when this happens, because and then you just come to a stop and your awareness you wake up and it's full reality all around you. And what I awoke to was grass. I was in a manicured lawn. And the sky was very blue, so I was just aware of green grass and blue sky. It was a cloudless sky, mostly cloudless. It was a high sun. The sun was not as intense as Hawaii, but it was like midday. Midday, but not real intense sun. A very pleasant day, maybe high haze. But very green grass and blue sky. And I drew this for you because I came to and I was here, down here on the grass. So I see the grass, I see the sky. And it's like when you're in that state, it's like, oh, is this the target? Am I here? What am I supposed to see? And I was just locked on the grass and the sky for a few seconds. There seemed to be a roadway off to my left, pavement, cement, maybe a sidewalk here, and some white low structures over here in the distance, and maybe some buildings. It didn't feel like buildings all around me in the middle of a city, maybe a big, not a big city, but a mid-sized city with some medium-sized buildings in the distance, and maybe a few people and some trees over there. But mainly my first impression was grassy area, very well manicured, nice. It's like a park. About the size maybe of a football field, but it wasn't a football field, with very blue sky. So I awoke to this and I started thinking, is this the target? What do I need to see? Orient myself. And by doing so, I brought too much conscious mind into it and I lost it. So I was able to see this for maybe 10 seconds. So very experiential, green grass, blue sky, some medium-sized buildings, maybe a few people in this park, but I didn't, it's difficult, you know, when you plop into a place unexpectedly and all of a sudden you're there and you orient yourself and then it fades and you go, what was that? What did I see? Try to remember everything I saw. So grass, sky, buildings in the distance, maybe some people, some trees. But that was really experiential for me. After that, I kind of lost the target. I had to reset. Now, this is a lot of work to get to where you can get to this spot and then get a visual that good and try to, you know, get your your capabilities to try and see it. All right? So I reorient myself. And I'm working again. I look again. And this time it's a building, a big, imposing, impressive looking building, and I'll draw it for you. This is a building I see almost every time I look at this target. This becomes my anchor point at the target. So I can always find the building and then spread my awareness out and see other things. So let me draw this building. Almost like a castle in a certain way. Not a castle. And by the way, I see these spires, towers, what do you call these? Gabled? There may be a big one right here. But this thing is like red rock. A brownish red. Okay? And it looks like it'd be at, not Disneyland, but the term I use, I keep referring to this as the Gothic Building. Because I can't spell when I'm remote viewing. The Gothic Building, okay? This is the Gothic place. Big, imposing. It looks like it belongs... like European in the 1800s, the mid or early 19th century. So my sense of this is the 1800s. Just because that's what it looks like. It looks like a big old building, turrets. Is that what I want to say? Turrets, spires. A couple of these, a bunch of these. Big in the middle. Very imposing building. Solid. Fortress-like. And my sense of this is European, but we'll get back to that. But this is, aside from the park that I was in, this is the most significant visual thing that I see on target. This is my foothold. So we'll go back to this. Red spires. You know, it's big, it's imposing, it's Gothic. It's almost kind of spooky looking, like it should be in somewhere in Europe. Okay, so we'll get back to this. Now I look again, and like I said, there is an area, there's a place here. By the way, my sense of this target is it's really complex. Like I could do a session on that building, I could do a session on the park, there's people here, there's a lot. So I'm going to have a lot to go through here, so I'm going to try to take this step by step. One area that I found myself was kind of like a little monument place. And this is like, I see people here walking around this place. And you know, I got a water gestalt, so there may be, I got gurgling, frothing water, so there may be a water gestalt here that's could be ornamental, like a pool, a pond, or even a reflecting pond, or just something to enhance this place. But these are pretty big. These are bigger than people, and it's like a repeating motif of rectangular shapes. And I keep getting the word monument. Okay? And then there's, at one point I sense, like a statue, like a Civil War hero or the father of our town, the founder of somebody important and famous, and they got a statue of him. So this is the monument place. People are brought here in buses. So the buses would make me feel like it's not the 1800s like the Gothic building. So I'm being pulled in two directions, because people get out of tour vans and they come walk around this place to admire this, and they take pictures. So this is the monument place. Okay. Now I look. And I'm in a city of structures. But the predominant structure is this big reddish, the fortress-like one, okay? This is, I described it, Gothic, European, spires, towers, very, very solid, like brick, rock, stone, okay? But next to that, and there's a sidewalk, and there's a roadway, and then there's a roadway here. And this has almost got to feel like, it's not Wall Street, but it has a feel, there's this roadway here that's like Wall Street, like financial area or something. And there's tall buildings here, not skyscraper talls, not skyscraper tall, 6, 7, 8 story buildings in this, and there's more back here. There's an intersection here, and there's people, a lot of people here, spilling out in the street, on the sidewalk. And sounds of people murmuring, engine sounds, engine fuel smells. So there's vehicles here. Engine revving, like a revving sound. Brum. More buildings here. So I see people on the sidewalk, in the streets. So this feels 1800s, but there's cars. These buildings feel mid-20th century. I don't see them as big, high glass 2010, 2015 skyscrapers, mid-sized buildings, but brick, stone, and people on the sidewalk. Okay. I'm gonna look at these humans. Probing icon. Okay, this is a downtown intersection. It's near the red Gothic Building. So the Gothic Building is my anchor point. So I can, there's people in front of that. Takes me a while to draw these people. They're like lining the sidewalk. Some are out in the road. Over here, there's a lot more people. They're here, they're here. There's a whole lot on this corner. This corner is dense with people. What kind of people are there here? There's some over here too. Some here. But they're center of attention is somewhere over here. So they're all along here. They're dressed in just regular clothes. They dress pretty good. Ties. Women in dresses. Not real formal dressed up, but work clothes. Would you, like, it's not casual Friday. It's, they dress pretty nice. They care, but it's normal clothes. It's just everyday clothes. They're not in special gowns or suits. It's just normal people, and some of them workers. Some of them are workers that work here in looky-loo. Some are the term looky-loo. They come to look at something. So it's a crowd of people. Reminds me kind of like a flash mob. Like everybody just shows up at a certain time of day, like we're all going to go here. Why? To see this. Okay, so they're going to see something. But it seems informal, like it's like a flash mob, like people didn't pay tickets to come here, or people didn't well, this is an area where, yeah, people would get on a bus and come here to be a tourist here, but these aren't. These are people that I think they live in this city mostly, and some work here, and they come to see this event. They're going to witness this event. It's not religious. It's not aerial fireworks. It's in a city. Why would they come to the city? It's not religious. They want to look. It's like somebody famous is going to come out of here or come by here. Okay, I hear engines revving. So there's exhausts. So there's cars coming by. Look out, make sure you don't get in the way of the car. Don't get hit by the car. But they're all various smells like horses or hay. I had gotten, like there's a faint smell on the wind of, what am I doing here? Like drifting over cattle, horses, hay. Carbon, coal, petroleum fumes, petrol, oil, the people. This pen's no good. Vitalis. Vitalis. There's one for you. Vitalis. Vitalis. When I was 10 years old, okay, I was a little kid. I was in grade school. We used to put Vitalis on our hair. We'd comb our hair. We'd go to the barber shop, and the Vitalis had a very distinct smell. And that just came to me that like guys in this crowd have Vitalis, like Pompadour, that smell of Vitalis. What's the word? Their hair is Vitalis smells. So that would mean, now my time frame, this keeps feeling 1800. It just has such a look of Europe in the 1800s. But there's Vitalis smell. You know how smell will take you to a time? It would be my childhood when I was 9, 10 years old. When people used Vitalis and there's cars going by. What are they? They're talking. They're murmuring. Just like low, subdued voices. I hear the car engine revs. Pop, pop, pop. I hear pop, pop, pop. Pop, 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 pop. Pop, 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 pop. I'm going to key off that sound. Hey, you. Loud voice. Sight associated with a loud voice. Here I see a how do I draw that? you know, a policeman's hat. And a little badge there. It's blue. And then he'd be like I get a loud voice, I get a policeman drawing his gun and showing his badge. Well, I get fear from him, but trying to take control, but he's very unsure. He's not in control, but he feels like he's supposed to look like he's in control, but he's not. Let me hear the gunshots. A lot. Bang, bang. Group, bang, 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 bang. 6 or 7. Pop, pop, pop. Now there's screams. The people. Okay, they've been standing around. And some of them are pointing like over there. Some of them are on the ground. Some are sprawling. Let's see what they're doing. This guy. He's alive, he's not dead, but get on the ground. Some are running, like a father would clutch his daughter to protect him, pointing. So something comes over these people like a contagion, like a sudden, it hits them that fast. They're looking, and then they, in an instant, this it's like a spreading contagion of something changes. Confusion, certainly. Fear and confusion, like they don't know which way to go. Their attention's scattered, their emotions are scattered. Everything is it's just like scattered, like you spooked the herd. And this was shouting and gunfire. So noise of that. Pop, 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 pop. These people, they don't seem like they're not right next to the Gothic Building. The Gothic Building is over here. So they like migrated. They were on the corner. Well, there's people everywhere. But these are the ones that are most like the spooked herd. They're in the open. I wonder. Okay, let me look at something. There's vertical things here. My sense of this is this. That's my sense of it's a woman. She gasping. Can't catch her breath. Shock. Disbelief. Surreal. She just witnessed something that that made her go, "Oh my God." She saw somebody get shot. She saw somebody. It's the gunfire. These people seem to be surrounded by teams of like squads, like death squads. They're trapped in an area. Bang, 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 bang. Scream, yell. Oh, run. The air is smoky. I can smell gun smoke, gunpowder. And there's fake IDs. There's guys with fake IDs showing like badges, like, hey. These guys aren't, they're not in uniform. These guys are in street clothes, like a jacket. I see a jacket. Clean cut, short hair, like a casual jacket, slacks or jeans, khaki. They're not in military garb. They're not in, but there are police guys off to the side that are in uniform. Showing their badges. This guy like work clothes, like coveralls, like a jumpsuit, carrying a tool case, suitcase or something. And there's this guy may even have like a hard hat. Like he looks like he's going to work. He looks like he's oh, he's got a jacket on. Policeman. These are the stockyard guys. These guys are like on a rooftop, or it's a sense of like a sniper nest. You know, is this the fucking Kennedy assassination? But there's a guy with a gun, there's a spotter, and there's a guy doing security that's got credentials, like we're the law, we're supposed to be here. These guys speaking clipped voices. They're professional. They're cold. They're not amateurs. They are, these are like CIA trained guys. That's the word I want, mercenary. They're like calm. Well, their heart's beating, but they're just like very professional about this. But they get a rush out of it. Talk about these humans, these teams. Let's start this over. So I'm holding a rifle and then going like this, so I'll draw him like that, like a profile. The gun guy. This is the workman. The credential guy. He's holding something up. So my sense of this is he's off. There's the gun guy, 30s, 40s, not real young. Very capable, cold, calculating, what's the word? Just iron-willed, kind of guy. This is the cool one. There's a workman who is posing as a workman. These guys are a team. They're together. He's got a tool case. He's dressed, okay, this guy's dressed like, I get a sense of like a jacket. And I don't know if it's jeans or khaki type. Just comfortable, not business clothes, not ratty clothes, but just like jacket, shirt, comfortable pants, loose clothing, short hair. He's got a rifle. This guy's in coveralls. It would like say like Ed on the above the breast pocket. Maybe a hat, like a hard hat, a worker's hat. So he's like on his lunch break kind of guy, just heading to the job, all right? But these guys are together. Then there's someone that's with them that's apart from them who's in a suit, a very nice suit, very clean-cut guy, and he's got some kind of credentials that he can hold up if anybody approaches, like police, detective, secret service, just a, you know, one of those billfold things with a badge or the credential insignia or something, just like, hey, this is a secure area, it's okay. And then off a part of driver, so at least 4 people. So this guy shoots. He takes the shot and immediately disassembles the rifle. And this guy's got a tool chest that's actually, you know, you open this up and it's going to have wrenches and pipes and, I don't know, not hammers, but, you know, screwdrivers, electronic equipment, stuff that a workman would have in his, if his tool chest was, you know, full of stuff. Pipes, wrenches, screwdrivers, something that you'd plug into something to get the amperage or some electronic thing. But so there's a lot of stuff in there. So when they disassemble this, they can put it in. They just put the butt under this. He puts it. And he's just like walking around. So they split up. This guy is like interference. Like, no, it's okay. I'm official. And the driver drives them away. Now, this one is like, I get the word stockyard. I think there's 3, 4, not people, but teams. And I keep coming back. I've come full circle. So I've come back to one of the first things I saw in the session, which was the Gothic Building, which is over here. It's brown, reddish brown, and it has turrets. I drew this before. I'm going to draw it again. And let me explain. There's a high point on it. There's like, this is the big imposing building. There's a reason I'm drawing this. When you remote view, stuff catches up to you. I've been working this session for a while now, and stuff's building up in me. Okay, there's that building, there's a road, there's a car. There's a couple cars, even motorcycles. You know, I smelled horses too. I thought, swear to God, there's a horse somewhere here. but a lot of people here. There's a smaller building here, other buildings here. The road comes this way. People are out here. So here's why I'm back to the Gothic building. Why I was so drawn to this building, because it's visually very distinct. When I close my eyes and get a flash of the scene, I always see this, but something's pulling me to that, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say this is what I think, is that there is people up here, because it's the highest point in this area. This is command and control. This is the ultimate, there's spotters up here. And I get a sense of radio communication. Scramble. They've got some gear, pretty big. It's like today I could do it, it'd be like an iPhone, but back in this day, I think it's about this big, a big bulky thing that I think has scrambled radio communications. It's a scrambler, so nobody can listen in. And this is, for its time, incredibly high tech. This is, nobody would even know about this. This would be like big, I don't know radio stuff. That's somebody I could ask. I will later. But this is up here. They've got the high point. They can watch. They see the car coming. They're in control of everybody. They've got they're like giving the orders. Okay? Those teams I drew, I think there might be one here or one on this building on the high up. Another one on the high up here in the, like on the rooftop. And the stockyard team, the fence. And I think that's command and control. I think there were some guys with rifles here, and I think they didn't shoot. I don't think they took a shot, but they were there. It was loaded. I think these guys did, and these guys did. And I think it triangulated in, and I think it was an assassination. And I'd have to say it was the assassination of John F. Kennedy in Dallas. I'm blind to this target. I've been told this is target 14A. I've done some paperwork. I've had no comment on my work other than to continue. So I may be just talking out of my ass here. These guys, who and why, like the shooters, they're cold, they're professional, they're contract guys. They've done this kind of thing before. Nothing this big, nothing this important. The sheep dipped. They've been sheep dipped. Sheep dip. That's a term. If you take somebody in the military and make them a civilian, so they're not tied to the military, and have them do something secret. I think these guys are not military, but they're maybe some of them, but not too much military. They've more been like sheep dipped out of the CIA, like they worked for something like the CIA, like maybe there's something I don't know about that's similar to the CIA, very secret, and they've been sheep dipped from that. They're confident enough, somebody's got enough juice, whoever hired them, they trust that they can get away with this, that they're not going to left to be hung out. There's a camaraderie, that's a bad word. Camaraderie has a good connotation. This is like their cells that are, specifically they're insulated. They're just in a world that they run in their own circles. They run in circles that they know that they can get away with this. So there's a trust of higher-ups. Like I said, juice. Somebody's got enough juice that there's enough juice behind this that this was a, did I spell that right? A coup d'etat. So it came from high enough levels. That's what I was getting at, is that they're working for people at high enough levels. Some rogue guys aren't just going to go shoot the president and think they can get away with it. They know that this can be handled at the highest levels, that no press is going to question them, no FBI is going to question them, there will be no investigation will go anywhere. That level of confidence to pull a trigger, that much coldness, that they work for someone that's, God, above the president. Interesting target. I think that they didn't call this the grassy knoll, they called it the stockyard. This was the stockyard team. Hey, they'll be at the stockyard. It's high up and there's a fence. I got to look up this building. It's the Gothic Building. And I don't know if that's the school book. The school book depository might be here, but At least 3 places over here. I've never heard this one. I've read about the assassination. If this is the assassination, yeah, I might be talking out of my ass. There might be data here that is good data for some totally unrelated target, and it's not this. But I've never heard this. But I think the command and control was up there. That's the highest place, and they had secure radios that were secret then. Were not. I don't know, when did they start scrambling radio signals? 63, this would have been big high tech. What else do you want to know about this? I feel like I'm not blind to it anymore. If this is some other target, I don't know. I think I'm done.
So there you have it. These data, collected independently by 2 extraordinary remote viewers with long and public track records spanning years of scientific remote viewing research, essentially tell the same story. John F. Kennedy was shot by 2 different shooters, each of whom was working within separate teams of 3 men each. There were also others at the assassination area who were observing, coordinating, making sure that things went according to plan. Whoever pulled off that assassination was well organized. It is useless to say that this or that could not have happened because of some information that you previously heard that was released by the government or the major media. You simply cannot trust any of that. The people who conducted this operation had resources sufficient to cover their tracks, and they knew that the mainstream media would toe the line. So where does this put us now? This report, combined with a number of other studies done at the Farsight Institute, including the Farsight report on the 9/11 events, suggests that what the public is actually told about major events is often not even close to what actually happens. In this report, these data on the JFK assassination are internally consistent, they make sense from a logical perspective, and they are corroborated independently by both remote viewers working totally blind. As with all investigations that utilize remote viewing data, this report does not offer proof, since no remote viewing data can do that all by themselves. You cannot even do that with physical data, as should be obvious with the Kennedy assassination, an event that happened in broad daylight with many witnesses, combined with photographic and film records. The best you can do in any situation is to build a case using all available types of data. Now, in this respect, many people may find that these remote viewing data are very persuasive given the conditions under which they were collected, especially when compared with known physical elements of the incident. For example, in terms of what we know for sure on the physical level, those who shot JFK were without doubt expert marksmen. Those shots were fired from a distance and with great precision. I know of no information stating that Lee Harvey Oswald was an expert marksman capable of that kind of shooting. Moreover, I have no doubt that a Carcano bolt action rifle was obtained from the 6th floor of the Texas School Book Depository. But that does not mean that Oswald put it there, and there is dispute over whether he actually owned it, including a serious argument that a photo taken with Oswald and the rifle was faked. I am not a photography expert, but I do know that anyone capable of doing what these remote viewing data indicate really happened would have been more than capable of placing evidence that would lead the authorities to a desired conclusion. In fact, that would have been part of the job, since it was certain that the public would have demanded that someone be caught and found guilty. Indeed, testimony at the Warren Commission hearings suggested that the government's own experts felt that the gun linked to Oswald was in very poor condition, and it could not be aimed properly with its telescopic sight. They even tried to use shims to fix it, and they still had difficulty. The bolt action of the rifle was also not smooth. I don't know much about guns, but I do know that expert marksmen take care of their guns, sort of the way that race car drivers take care of their race cars. What I can say is that our remote viewing data clearly match what seems to have happened on that day based on physical evidence. The bullets that killed JFK were shot by expert marksmen using precision equipment in perfect condition. All this raises questions about whether Lee Harvey Oswald really fits the description of someone capable of doing that kind of shooting with that particular weapon. The remote viewing data help give us the courage to accept the possibility of a much more complicated scenario. The remote viewing data show us where to look. Remote viewing the JFK assassination is something that was going to happen one day no matter what. There is no way an investigation such as this one could have been prevented forever. Now it is done, and we have time to think about the results and all that they imply. I hope you get a chance to see part 2 of this report, which is the second video presentation for this project on the assassination of JFK. In part 2, we focus on the individuals who ordered and planned the assassination, as well as why they may have wanted Kennedy killed in the first place. In part 2, new sessions are presented that focus on the highest level organizational meeting that occurred to plan the JFK assassination. I also pull many of the pieces of this great historical puzzle together based on the totality of all of these remote viewing data. See you again in part 2. Trust me, it is worth it. And as I have often said in the past, keep an open mind. It is something we all need. I am Courtney Brown, Director of the Farsight Institute. Thank you for listening.